over. I just want to thank Rotimi and Judith especially, and just to say that they are doing this for us free of charge, but for the benefit of everybody here. And I hope we all appreciate that and do pay attention and learn as much as we can. So thank you very much, and God bless you all. Idris, you've got the floor.
All right, thank you so much, the chairman of the board of Tpta and immediate past chairman of the NBA ICLE, Tobena Rejikwe. Good afternoon, colleagues, and a warm welcome to everyone to this AI prompt engineering masterclass. And if you call it a masterclass, it is because this class will be delivered by whom people I consider to be masters in the technology and AI sector in Nigeria. And today, everyone, we're not here for theory. We're here to understand how AI can actually improve our legal work. Drafting, advisory, due diligence, and decision-making. It has been structured to move from fundamentals into real legal application. I will not waste too much time. I would immediately go into the profile of each of the partners in this, each of the facilitators here today. So let me first of all start with Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi. Our first facilitator operates as the intersection of law, technology, and governance. He's a partner at BOC Legal, and it leads the work around AI, data governance, and regulatory frameworks. He has also played key roles within the Nigerian Bar Association, particularly in shaping conversations around digital transformation and legal innovation. He brings not only a technical understanding, but a policy depth, which is critical as we adopt AI responsibly. I'll go straight because this are the sessions will basically be more interactive, and as the facilitators will be playing what I would like to call Tpta. That means they'll be passing the ball to themselves. So our next facilitator is Judith Olo. I hope I got the pronunciation right. And she also brings onto the table a very practical and implementation-focused perspective. She's the founder of Brachel Solutions, which you can see as our background, and specializes in advising law firms and legal teams globally on how to actually deploy AI in ways that improve delivery and not just theory. So she also has experience with top-tier legal firms like White & Case in the United Kingdom and in-house roles at Total Energies. She understands both elite legal practice and operational realities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome both facilitators, and I will immediately hand over, just before I forget housekeeping, please drop your questions, your Q&A in the Q&A box. We will be bringing it all up at the end of both presentations from both facilitators. And since this is going to be a very practical session, there will also be intermittently some form of playbook scenarios that will be playing in the Q&A and in the chat box. We can also confirm that this session will entitle you to 1 CPD point, the ICLE, and also you can always get back to our YouTube channel, which will be the link to that YouTube channel will be placed also in the chat box for you to watch. We encourage you to subscribe to that YouTube channel for you to be able to see the things, a recording of all the things that's going to take place during the session. So without wasting much of your time, I'm eager to be a part of this. This is where I also do a lot of work. And so I would love to hand over immediately now to Rotimi and Judith to kickstart and start this session. Thank you. Rotimi, you need to unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Rotimi, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Idris. I think I was just too excited.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you very much for that warm introduction of both myself and Judith. And thank you to Bena for and the been said about intros. My name
I can't seem to hear Rotimi. Can you hear him, Idris?
No, I can't hear him. Apparently, maybe is some network issues. So we just give him a bit of time. Okay, I think it's back on now.
Rotimi, you're
Yes, we can.
frozen. Something wrong with your network.
Okay, I can hear you though.
Oh, okay, we can hear
Um,
you
We
now.
can hear
Please
you
just go
now,
ahead.
very clear. Mm.
Mm.
okay, okay. Thank you very much. Again, I was saying good afternoon to everyone. This is the AI for Lawyers Masterclass, Prompt Engineering Masterclass. Before we begin, I thought to just tell us a quick story, and it's perhaps the story many of us hear and we get scared. In June 2023, a lawyer named Stephen Schwartz, practicing in the Southern District of New York, submitted a legal brief to the federal court. The brief was well written, it was fluent, it cited 6 judicial authorities in support of the client's position, but there was just one problem. None of those 6 cases existed, not one. We've heard the story. Mr. Schwartz had used ChatGPT to conduct his legal research. He had typed in his legal question. ChatGPT had produced authoritative sounding case citations, complete with correct formatting, plausible names, convincing legal reasoning. So Mr. Schwartz then did something that made the problem worse. He asked ChatGPT to confirm that the cases were real. Of course, ChatGPT confirmed they were real, but it was wrong. The result was sanctions after a hearing, a $5,000 fine, a public apology to the judges whose names had been attached to the imaginary opinions, and a case that had become a cautionary tale all over the world. In fact, it's taught in every AI training program in the law schools where these are taught. So, my question today is, was this a fault of AI technology or was it a fault of method? I think the answer is simple. It was a fault of method. The lawyer in this case did not prompt properly. Indeed, he prompted very poorly, if at all he prompted in any structured way. He treated what we call a probabilistic system, that's AI. He treated it as though it were a legal database. He asked for answers when he should have asked it for a research plan. And then worse, he accepted its outputs without verification. And he paid professionally for this, a huge price. So that is why we are having this master class. And that is why it is tagged Prompt Engineering for Lawyers. As you have noticed, I did not start by talking about what is AI, because I know in the last 3 years plus, that's all we've been talking about. So today, I'm just diving straight into the pain points, addressing the issues, live demonstrations. There will be interaction at some point. And so I urge all of us to stay engaged as we go on this journey. It's going to be high level because there's so much we can say in a short while, but it will be impactful. So let us begin with what AI can actually do, right? What can AI do? Or let me put it this way, what can it do very well in the context of the environment we play, which is legal? If you look at the slides, I tried to organize it just pretty much into three categories. AI can do three things, and in this case, large language models. One is structuring and organizing information. That's what the AI is built for. It's a pattern recognition machine. The other side of AI, which you would hear down the line, is called machine learning. It's a prediction machine. And so AI is excellent in taking a large unstructured body of information and organizing it into a logical framework. That is, when you give AI a set of facts and you ask it a legal question, it is perfect in organizing it into categories and suggesting a logical order for analysis. It performs very well on this spectrum. Right. Now, in practice, that means for us lawyers, AI is good in research. It's good in spotting and identifying frameworks. It's good in making document outlines. It's good in checklist generation. So that's one. Two, AI is also good in drafting skeletons or scaffolding. That's what I mean is it's good in producing drafts. So AI is very in producing structural drafts of legal documents. So that's what we call, for instance, like the architecture of a contract, the heading of a legal opinion, the skeleton of your statement of claim or your statement of defense. So when you ask AI for a drafting skeleton, that's a framework, not the actual clause at the initial stages. It gives you a solid foundation to build on, right? So the critical principle to remember here is that AI is good in producing structure before it produces content. And I'm just laying the foundation. I'm going to show you these things on my screen. Now, number three is AI is good in synthesizing and summarizing. If you give it very lengthy documents, very lengthy contracts, it can give you a great summary, and it's great in doing that as well. And then, of course, there's another category. It's good in generating checklists and in reviewing frameworks. But I want us to pause there. Right. Now, in everything I have said so far, notice that there's something in particular that it has in common. In everything I have said so far, I have not once asked the AI or said the AI is great in giving you answers. And I'll explain. The very first mistake people make, especially lawyers, is that we treat AI like an oracle. By an oracle, I mean we treat AI or LLMs like Google. And we ask the oracle the law as though it knows the law. And as we go on, I would explain why this is a fundamental mistake. But those who would handle LLMs right are those who would treat AI as a structuring tool, as a drafting assistant, and as an organizer of information. That distinction is critical to everything we are going to treat, that we are going to treat today and that we are going to teach you today. So initially, I was going to ask you in the chat, which of these categories I've mentioned would you really want me to focus on? But mentally think about it, and I'm going to cut across all of those, right? But let me also quickly then pivot into the things it cannot do, right? I've talked about the things it can do, the things it cannot do. You see, the number one thing AI cannot do is that it can, AI do not retrieve information from a database. So this is what I mean. AI, by its general nature, generates text in a probabilistic fashion. It's just generating what the programmers call the next token. What's the most likely word that should come next? So if you say
We appear to have lost you again.
Okay, I think it's
okay.
back.
Okay.
Oh, all right. So Bolu, if you can hear me, sign me up on my other network as well on the MTN, right? So that I have both. All right. So I was saying AI is good at predicting the next word, right? But it's not an oracle. It's if you ask AI to act like Google, it's going to hallucinate. It's going to pretend as if it knows. Meanwhile, it does not know. So that's why AI would invent legal authorities when really and truly it's just trying to make you happy. It's just trying to please you. AI has false confidence. It expresses certainty when really and truly it should not be expressing certainty. And quite frankly, that confidence throws a lot of people off. And I'm going to talk more about that. Another failure mode is jurisdictional default. Because much of the internet, the legal side of it was trained on American law and English law. If you treat AI as an oracle, it's going to default to the American or the English legal system when really and truly you are looking at the Nigerian system. So all of those are its failure modes. And I think I've said enough to put everyone on notice is to take care of those pain points and ensure that you become a power user and not just one who engages with a tool and you're at the mercy of the LLM developers. So I am going to share my screen now. Of everything I will be doing today, I'm going to default to consumer AI like ChatGPT. As the course go on, I'll tell you why, and then you would also know so much more beyond ChatGPT and the other LLMs. So this is the context of what I want to do next. Think about a Nigerian company, right? A Nigerian private company. This is the scenario. A Nigerian private company has a former director who entered into a contract on behalf of the company without board authorization. Then the company suffered financial loss. The company comes to you, the lawyer, and wants to know its legal position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prompt this AI the way most people prompt AI, right? So I'm just going to ask the AI to do what now? I would say what happens when a company director signs a contract without board approval. So give me a second. Let me pull up that prompt. What happens when, just a second, I got it all here for some reason. Oh, okay, I was looking in the wrong place. Okay, I got it now. What happens when a company director does what? Signs a contract without board approval. Now, I'm using your typical ChatGPT and I just go enter, right? And so pretty much it's giving me an answer if a director has apparent authority, even without board approval, and the contract may still be legally binding on the company if the director appeared to have authority. But before that, it hedged at the beginning. It says when a company director signs a contract without board approval, what happens depends on company law, company's eternal rule, and how the third party acted. This is, a pretty good AI. And then it goes on to say the director had no authority at all. It says what would happen. And then it talks about breach of eternal rules and all. Now, notice what I have done here, though. I did not give a specific jurisdiction. I did not identify any specific or applicable statute or law. I did not define the specific legal question. I have not told the AI what work product that I need. I have just asked it a question, the same way I might type something into a search engine. And well, for someone who is average, again, look at what we have here. It says, okay, depends on the law. And then it says a few things that, quite frankly, average might be over amplifying it. It's actually a very poor response. But what I'm going to do next is, so I'm going to ask the same question, right, again. This time, I'm going to give it a very structured prompt. And this time, you are going to notice also that I'm going to put the prompt in another AI window, not the same one that I used just now. So I'm going to put down this current window and I will put up another window with another prompt. Now, I'll tell you something about the window I want to put on. This is the same ChatGPT. I am using it in temporary mode. What that means is that I am using it in a mode that is privacy preserving, right? It's not going to retain anything that I have put in here. We are going to talk more about this. But look at my prompt. You are a senior Nigerian litigation associate with expertise in company law. I need a legal research plan for the following issue. Produce a structured legal research plan identifying the key legal issues, the applicable legal sources to consult, and the research steps required. And then I went on to give details. A Nigerian private company, Company A, is in dispute, and I give the AI the structure that I want the response. I want a research plan, and I gave it headings. Give me legal issues, give me the applicable Nigerian legislation. Essentially, I've told it what to do. I gave it verification instruction and boundaries, which Judith will talk about. Now, I'm going to hit send, right? And it's going to take a bit, but it starts. Research plan, issues identified, and then, it goes on, applicable Nigerian legislation. This time it is actually stating specific laws, specific sections, comma, section 305. It goes on to talk about authority of directors, and it goes on applicable case law, right? Now, notice that in there it had not particularly mentioned a case law specifically, but then it gives me a research plan. Now, I can keep scrolling, but the first thing I want you to note here is that this is a model. This is the same ChatGPT that I used the first time, right? Now, everything I did here is even a very, what's the word? Elementary response. Watch my cursor. I'm going to pull this down. Notice that I used the instant part of ChatGPT. I could have used thinking. If I had used thinking, the response would have been more detailed. Now, if I go into configure, I could then have used ChatGPT 5.4. That's for more complex questions, but I'm going to talk more about this, right? Now, my point is the same model, though, was what I used, but the response was completely different. Now, I want you to take just a moment and look at the screen, just kind of briefly, and take some time and not tell me now, but just think about what I've said so far and think about what you believe is, happening here. I said take a moment because I'm going to go into the details of what is happening here in a bit. As I go into the details of what is happening here, let me stop and tell you what we have done in this masterclass. If it has not been shared yet, it's going to be shared. You are going to have what I call a playbook. The playbook is a document that has all the prompts that I have showed you so far, plus more. This playbook is going to give you the background to everything I'm going to run through in this next section, in this next segment. So I'm saying this ahead so that you don't get scared, like I'm going to move very fast and you are missing some things. No, you are going to download that playbook and you are going to use that playbook and you will use it across different practice areas that you operate in. So maybe I should bring my slide back up and then this time I will have on the screen the things I want to show you. Now, I'm going to go from the bottom up. So what you see on the slide is like construction. So ordinarily you want to look up. Don't look up, look down, right? So we are now in module 2. And in module 2, I'm going to teach us the 6 prompts, the 6 elements of prompt engineering. It's a framework and it's actually the heart and the core of this masterclass. It's the structure behind the prompts that you just saw me put in ChatGPT. So that's what I want to teach you now. And I promise you, once you have internalized the 6 elements, you will never prompt AI again the same way. Like we say where I come from, your life will never remain the same again. So I will just dive into this. First of all, AI is tool agnostic, or prompt engineering, I should say, is tool agnostic. What I mean is that what I want to show us here is such that it has nothing to do with the tool that you are using, whether it's an enterprise tool, whether it's a consumer tool, it does not matter. And I'm not going to be mentioning any name, any brand name beyond ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. And you can use any of those 3, or you can use any tool you use. Okay, maybe I should mention Copilot as well. What I want to show us is a structure. It's a framework. In the module I just ended, you saw the difference between an unstructured prompt and a structured one. I want to show you the structure. This structure is the 6 elements. The very first element is what I call the tags. And that's what you have on the screen at the base. And essentially, that is what exactly you want the AI to do. The second element is the role, who the AI should act as. The third element is the context. That is the facts, the documents, the constraints, the jurisdiction that the AI should assume. The fourth element is the output. That's the structure, the length, the tone, and the audience that you are writing to. The fifth one, verification and boundaries, of which Judith will take up. So I'm going to deal with the first 4. Now, think of it this way. When you brief a junior associate in your firm, perhaps you are briefing about a contract. I bet you don't just say, look into this contract issue. And well, if you say that, I assume that perhaps your associate already know what you mean by look into, right? But really and truly, what you tell your associate, right, is you tell them what you need. You tell them what facts they should work with. You tell them what format you want them to produce a document for you. You want to tell them the standard of accuracy that you expect. You want them to know what information is confidential. And you do all of these things instinctively as a lawyer, because you know that a vague brief will also produce vague work. And it's the same principle that applies to AI. A vague prompt produces vague outputs. But the opposite is also the case. A structured prompt produces structured outputs. And what is a structured prompt? It's a prompt that is built on these 6 elements that we are going to teach in Module 2. So I'm going to go on the screen again, and I'm going to build a prompt from scratch, element by element, right in front of you. Now, the scenario is this. So just follow me. The scenario is this. A Nigerian fintech company has had a data breach, right? And the client, that's the company, needs to understand its notification obligations under the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023. Now, I would want you to watch the screen, right? As I'm going to add the prompts. I will add the prompts elements by elements. And the first prompt I'm going to add on the screen will be the tags. So I'm going to bring up again I'm using ChatGPT. So I'm going to clean this up. So notice what I want to do here. I'm going to put up the first element. In the window on the screen, what you see is the tax element. Produce a preliminary eternal legal memorandum analyzing the client's notification obligation to the Nigeria Data Protection Commission and to affected individuals following a data breach under the Nigeria Data Protection Act. Now, what type of work product do I need? Notice I put it there, an eternal legal memorandum. Here, I am not yet writing to the client. This is for eternal use, right? 2, what is the specific legal question? It's in that prompt. 3, what is the scope? What is the jurisdiction? It is in the prompt. And 3, you will notice the level of detail that I want from this, right? I said produce a preliminary eternal legal memorandum. Now, again, this tax, the work product is an eternal legal memorandum. The legal question is a notification obligation. The scope is the NDPA 2023, not the GDPR, not any other regime. And I have named 2 specific notification obligations to the NDPC and to the affected individuals. Now, the AI knows exactly what I want, no guesswork. So I move to element 2. Notice what I called element 2, that is the role. Now, you'll notice that I have not put enter. I have not sent this. I have only put one element. So the next element, which is the role, that is, I want to tell the AI who it should act as when it is performing this task. So watch this. I'm going to paste the role. Look on the screen. The role is, I did not say act as a lawyer. That would be weak, right? I said you are a senior associate at a Nigerian law firm specializing in data protection and technology law with particular expertise in the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023. That is a strong role element, right? So now the AI knows what it is. It is a Nigerian data protection specialist. It is not a generalist. It's not an American privacy lawyer. It's a Nigerian specialist, and that anchors everything that follows. So I'm moving to the next element, which is element 3. That is the context. This is where I supply the AI with the facts it needs to do the work. Context is the element that most directly determines the quality of the output. Let me give you a caveat here. The context I want to talk about here is basic context. And you would hear me later on talk about context engineering. This is what I want to talk about here is not context engineering. This is basic context for the prompt, but it is powerful, and you need to start from here and know this and understand this. Now, let me say something about context. There's a strong temptation to paste in everything, the entire incident report. And by the way, if you follow my cursor, I can do that. This plus sign on ChatGPT, right, means I can click on upload photo and file. Let me give you a fun fact about this model, GPT 5.4. It has a context window of 1,000,000 plus tokens. What that means is that it can take anything. Well, let me scratch that and say not anything, but it can take a large volume of text and you can paste it in there, right? But that's not for today. That's for context engineering. But I'm not pasting anything, right? I want to give it context. So, and to be clear, you don't have to paste everything, all the correspondence, the full, someone can go take the entire Nigerian NDPA and paste it there. You don't have to. I promise you, the AI has read the Nigerian NDPA 2023. How do I know? It's on the internet. And if anything is on the internet, I promise you that ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini has read it and knows it, right? You might be tempted to paste the entire regulatory framework. I want to tell you that please resist this temptation, because what you might quickly do is you might confuse the AI with too much unstructured information, right? Instead, provide context that is selected, that is organized, that is labeled, right? And I will give you an example. The example, I'm going to paste it next. And what that example will be speaking to is essentially, who is the client? What is their regulatory status? Then what happened? When did it happen? What is the timeline? What has been done so far? What does the client want to know? So watch the screen again. I'm going to paste the element 3, which is the context. I'm just going to copy it and I will paste it in. So in the context window here, essentially I'm saying I'm providing the structure. I have identified the client. The client is a CBN licensed fintech. I've identified the event, a data breach on the 14th February 2026, I've identified the timeline when the breach was discovered. I've identified the current position, that is, there has been no notification yet. And then I have all critical points. I have not included the client's actual name or any real identifying information. I have described the client by its type and its regulatory status. And we are going to cover a little bit more of that in the next element, and perhaps specifically in Module 4, and Judith will cover that. So, again, even Module 4 will not cover everything about context, right? So let me quickly say again that to understand what I mean, there's still going to be another course called context engineering. Now, the next one before I hand over to Judith, and I'm going to do this very quickly, is the output. This is where I tell you, I'm telling the AI what the response should look like, right? The AI has a default of writing in narrative prose. Narrative prose is the way novelists write. And if you take instruction in narrative prose, you are inviting hallucination. What I have on the screen now is the output format. I've said structure your response as an eternal legal memorandum with the following headings: legal framework, notification obligation, notification to affected individuals, applicable timelines, consequences, recommended steps. Now, without an output that is structured, like I said, the AI is just going to write in prose form. And that is where hallucination thrives. But when you specify a format, you get a structured output that you can work with. So, practical tip. If you were analyzing for risk, it's always good to ask the AI to produce it in a table format. And a table format because tables are the most reviewable format. And you're going to see that in pattern C in my module 3. You force the AI to not hallucinate. So, so far, I've given you 4 of the 6 elements: task, role, context, and outputs. These 4 elements tell the AI what to do and how to present it. But there are 2 more elements that are just as critical. These are the elements that actually protect you as a lawyer professionally. And that's the verification instruction and the boundaries. To take you through these 2 elements, I am handing over to Judith. Judith, like you heard early on, is the founder and lead consultant at Bracha Solutions in London. She advises clients, pretty much in this circle. So she's doing this for you on billable time. She's going to show you how elements 5 and 6 complete the framework. Now, Judith is not going to do exactly what I did. She's going to bring her own flavor. And so, Judith, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rotimi, and thank you to Tpta and the entire Tpta team. I'm delighted to be here. So as Rotimi has said, we're going to try and make this as practical as possible. We have covered the first 4 elements of a prompt framework, which is the task, the role, the context, and the output format. Now I want to give you the 2 elements that most lawyers usually leave out. And I'm also a practicing lawyer, practiced for over 13 years. So I know this and I understand when I say sometimes lawyers are in a rush and they leave out this critical step. And that is the verification instructions and the boundaries. Okay. And another big mistake that lawyers make with AI is that they ask it for an answer before they even tell it the rules. And that's usually where the trouble starts. Because in legal work, a good prompt is not just about getting a smart answer, the most vast answer, or verbose answer. It is about getting a safer answer. So, for the next few minutes, I want to show you how to build safety into the prompt itself before the tool gives you back, as Rotimi told us, hallucinated responses, which just means AI lies, and it lies very confidently. So we want to put in guardrails before we give it the chance to give us an hallucinated output. So first is the verification instruction, and second is the boundaries. So what do these do? Verification instructions tell the model, show me what needs to be checked. Flag uncertainty, do not pretend, and do not assume. While the boundaries tell the model, do not cross certain lines on confidentiality, on privilege, on personal data, or any missing facts. So to put this in another way, basically, verification controls accuracy and boundaries control risk. Okay, so now we want to make this practical. I'm going to share my screen and share a chat that I had with ChatGPT just to put this into context. Okay, sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up when you're able to see my screen. Okay, fantastic. So usually a lawyer will essentially prompt like this. And this is a bad prompt, okay? Because as Rotimi has taught us in the earlier part of the course, it doesn't contain a task, a role, a context, or any of the output formats. And importantly, it doesn't contain any verification or instruction boundaries. So this is the bad prompt. Draft a legal memo on whether my client can terminate this contract immediately for breach and include the main cases and legal tests. I mean, if you give this to a junior associate or an intern, first it's like, okay, what contract, what clause, what was breached, right? You'd ask all those questions. But sometimes we're in a hurry and we just dump this into ChatGPT. And what will happen is if you give a prompt like this, and it's a very dangerous prompt to give because it invites the tool to make up things. It invites the tool to hallucinate, and it will sound certain. It will invent authority before it has even checked anything. And the response it will give you will most likely be fabricated or hallucinated, right? We didn't even give the prompt the terms of the contract or the clause that we're saying that it has breached. So let's look at the output. Well, firstly, it got the date wrong because today is the 18th. And it's giving you an answer. It's told you about repudiatory breach. And it's made up case law. Like, why? You don't even know the clause that has been breached, right? And this is all it's telling us. It doesn't even know the jurisdiction that we're trying to look into. And it's giving us case law, it's giving us facts, it's giving us legal tests for termination. Now, intrinsically, most of it might not be wrong, but it doesn't apply to the facts of our case and what we want it to do. But we didn't tell it this, but it's just assumed. And it's giving us a conclusion and it's ended the memorandum. Now, if you're in a hurry and you don't look at it, and nobody should do this, and I assume nobody does this, but this is how you get into trouble quickly and fast, right? So now let's look at a better prompt, right? This prompt has the task, the role, the context, the output format, and most importantly, the verification instructions. So here with the role, we're telling it, you are assisting a supervising lawyer, because the instruction was giving to us. We don't really have a lot of the context, but we don't want it to act as a lawyer in this instance. We want it to assist us to fill in the gaps of what maybe we are not seeing or what we haven't considered. So we're saying act as a supervising lawyer. You are not acting as counsel and must not provide final legal advice. Okay? And do not pretend certainty where facts are incomplete. So you actually tell the tool that. Then in the task, we're telling it to give us a first pass memo. And then in the context, as Rotimi said, context is really important. Now, we don't even have the full facts. Maybe we don't have the contract. We don't know what it is, but a client has rung up and said they're in breach, or a senior associate or a partner has come to tell us that we're in breach, right? Or the business team, if you work in-house, has come to say, oh, we've breached the contract. I need you to tell us what we need to do. Okay. And they said, oh, we don't have time, but just look at what that might look like. And now you tell the input in the AI in the context that the facts are incomplete. The contract wording has not yet been reviewed. The output is for internal legal review only and not for client delivery. Then you tell it how you want it to give you the output. So we want it to tell us the facts, any assumptions, any missing facts, anything that we need to review, also giving us a verification checklist. And now the most important part is the verification instructions, right over here. So we tell it, start by listing your assumptions clearly, because we know AI will assume. And if we don't tell it to tell us what is assumed, we will think that it's stating fact. We also told it to tell us the missing fact and the missing contract wording that could change the analysis, because as we know, we don't have the contract yet or the particular terms that were breached. Then we tell it, don't invent cases, don't invent statutes, regulations, legal tests, or citations. We also need to tell it that if it's unsure of any authority or legal position, it should say so. Just say so. Don't pretend. Don't be that, over sabi, as we say, and pretend. Just say you don't know it, right? And that's why we're telling that in the verification instruction. Then we tell it, distinguish clearly between confirmed information, assumptions, and points that require further verification. And we've told it to provide us a verification checklist of the contract wording, facts, and any legal authorities that must be checked. Now we go to the boundaries, right? Which is what protects our client privilege and our underlying as lawyers, our ethical procedures as lawyers. So now we tell it, assume all information is confidential and potentially privileged. Use placeholders and do not request sensitive information or identifying information. Tomorrow I'll be going into depth about the ethics of using AI, but personal data, names, account details, addresses, matter numbers, these shouldn't really be going into the AI model. So we're telling it, don't ask us this, because sometimes you would have used ChatGPT and it says, oh, if you just paste the client or you let me know the name or what industry or the amount, I can tell you so and give you a better information. But we're telling it, no, don't ask me any of that information, but you can still produce an answer without knowing the facts and the specifics of it. And then we say, don't draft a client ready conclusion or final legal advice, because at the end of the day, it is the lawyer's job to hold the pen. We're just asking it to help us in that initial research. And then it says we should tell it any additional context that it needs that might make the prompt better, and it should ask for a neutral summary of facts rather than any confidential document or privileged information. So now look at what it gave us. It told us the fact that it knows. So there's a contract that exists between the client and the counterparty. Yes. We don't know if there's an immediate termination for the breach. We don't know who the counterparty is, but there's an alleged breach by the counterparty. It tells us exactly what it's assumed. Because remember, we never gave it the jurisdiction. It's telling us that it's defaulted to English law, right? And maybe if you're checking this from Nigeria, it will tell you that it's defaulted to Nigerian law. And it's telling you that, it doesn't know when the contract was entered into, when it's currently in force, and giving you all the various things it has assumed. And then critically, it's telling you what's missing. It doesn't know what obligation was breached, when the breach occurred. It doesn't know what conduct of the party caused it. Right now, it's giving you those guardrails that you would be asking about anyway if someone came to you telling you there's a breach in a contract and didn't tell you what the contract was. And it tells you the clauses you need to review, the termination clause, the conditions, the warranties, as you should, and then issues you need to analyze, and also a verification checklist, what you should go and check, the facts you should check, right? And then it gives you a short memo that you should use internally. This is very important. So can you see what happened here, right? It's the same tool, same ChatGPT, the same lawyer. I'm the one who pasted both things, but it gave you a completely different answer with the level of safety built in, right? So this is a very key lesson for all of us. Do not just prompt for brilliance. You need to prompt for restraint, right? You need to tell the model you're using, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, right? Or Copilot, that it should show you where not to trust the output. This type of prompting forces the model to separate what it knows, what it assumes, and what you still need to check. So if you remember just one thing from this segment, please and please let it be, never ask AI anything before you give it rules, before you tell it what it needs to verify, and before you set the boundaries. And that is how you move from clever prompting to safe legal prompting. So can you all give a thumbs up and a yes in the chat if you will start prompting safely like this from today? Fantastic, fantastic. I love it. So tomorrow we'll go into module 4, which I'll be taking you through, and I'll build a bit more on this and give you a full practical workflow for doing this in real legal practice. So in your law firms, in your chambers, in your in-house teams, and in your organizations. But right now, I'll hand back to Rotimi. Thank you so much for listening.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Judy. That was a masterclass on its own. I am still certain that many questions that has kept a lot of our colleagues awake in this intelligence age has been answered by your treatment of those two elements. Thank you so much. All right. So if we had called this a day, I believe that we've had very useful insights already, but there's still a bit to deal with. Now I have walked you through 4 elements. Judith had walked you through 2. So now it's going to be your turn. When I say your turn, I mean the participants. What I want to attempt now is to give us a messy, unstructured prompt. And then your job, wherever you are, I hope you are not driving or anything, is to rewrite these unstructured points using the 6 elements framework. And maybe you have 3 minutes or 5 minutes. At this point, I would ask that the chat be open if it's possible. But before it's opened, you'll notice I pasted the link in the chat. This is the link to an article I wrote on prompt engineering and context engineering in LinkedIn. I think you should read this article between today and tomorrow. And you would find it very helpful in terms of it would cover many of the gaps we are not going to be able to deal with on this call at this time. But what I want to do here is to paste a messy prompt. So I'm going to put up ChatGPT again, though I'm not going to click the prompt. So I'm just going to have a fresh, give me a fresh window, guy. Okay. All right. So in there you have a prompt. The prompt is exactly what is in there. Let me read it out. That's you, a lawyer, speaking. I have a client who is a tech company. Sorry, I'm using tech company. That's my area, so I'm kind of biased. And they need to know about data protection compliance. Can you help? So that's a messy prompt. Your job in the next few minutes is to try and make sense of this prompt. Rewrite it using the 6 elements you just learned now. And for those who can, and if you can, type your improved version in the Zoom chat when you are done, right? The message prompt is, I have a client who is a tech company and they need to know about data protection compliance. Can you help? Rewrite it, but read it carefully. It's missing almost everything, right? There's no specified task. There is no role. The context is vague. There is no output format. There is no verification instruction. There are no boundaries. So using the 6 elements framework, it's also right there in your playbook. Rewrite this prompt. Make it structured, make it specific, and professionally useful. You have 2 more minutes. Type your improved version in the chat. Okay, I think I have given us JAMB question. All right, for those who are not seeing the playbook has been dropped as a link. I believe it's going to be dropped again. But I mean, I really want us to try our hands on this. I truly want us to try our hands on this so that it's truly a class. It's truly a master class. Okay, I see that many of us are very interested in the playbook and not so much as in the prompts. But whether or not you attend this right here on the call, what I want you to do is go try this out. This is the difference between that person who will use AI as Google, or that person who will use AI as a professional game changer. You want to be the other person. And it starts with practice. Now, for those who try, or for those who are agonizing around, how can I restructure this messy prompt into the kind of prompts that the 6 elements has just taught us? I'm going to paste in here now a model prompt, which is like an answer, right? So Okay, let me do that again. I see that answers are coming, but I will take time to look at the answers. All right. So let me paste in what the model prompt should look like. Now, in looking at the model prompt, right, I started with role. I did not particularly start with tax, right? So notice again, look up there. The messy prompt is, I have a client who is a tech company and they need to know about data protection compliance. Can you help? If you apply the 6 elements, this is what your results will look like. Before I walk you through, let me quickly look in the chat. Okay. Yeah, someone says, write an internal memo for a fintech company using yourself as a senior legal associate. Clap for yourself. That's much better than the messy prompt, and that's Nancy. Well done. Rebecca says, I'm a Nigerian lawyer in the tech space. I need you to come up with a detailed research work, data protection. Fantastic. Much better than the messy prompt. Right. Yes. Adebola says, prepare a legal memo on what the data protection compliance is about. Role you are senior. Fantastic. Deborah, well done. Well done. And I love it when folks really try their hands on things. Is it just me? It looks like it's only ladies that are trying their hands on things. Thank you, Victor. Oh, no, Victory. Victory is still a lady. Guys, don't fall my hand. What's going on? Anyways, posing as a okay, I see that folks are really trying their hands on this. So let's look at what a model prompt will look like, right? And everyone did well, and I'm not flattering you. If you use the prompt you typed in against that messy prompt, you get a much better answer than the Google search kind of prompt. So look at the role. You are a Nigerian data protection lawyer with expertise in the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023 and the regulations of the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Now, look at the task. Produce a compliance checklist identifying the key data protection obligations applicable to a Nigeria technology company that collects and processes personal data of Nigerian users. Look at the context. The client is a technology company that operates a mobile application with approximately 100,000 registered users. And see the level of detail. Then look at the output format. It does not just specify what you want, registration and filing obligation, lawful basis for processing, data subject rights. Now, folks and dear colleagues, notice that for those who always belly ache about, oh, we are done, AI is going to get the... No, see, you'll notice that the level of detail in this prompt is actually showing the expertise of this lawyer, that really and truly, this lawyer is a tech lawyer. And the same applies, and that's what we are going to go to in Module 3. The same applies in any space you play. The way you are going to prompt. Okay, many cannot see the playbook. Bolu, please reshare the playbook over and over in the chat. And it's a link, so you can just download it. I'm sorry, please, it's going to be shared over and over, and then you'll be able to download it. Sorry about that. Right, so I was saying, regardless of the space you play, if you compare the first one, I have a client who is a tech company and they need to know about data protection. And you compare that with the model one, the response is going to be worlds apart. And again, it does not matter what model you are using as much. Now, I will vary that when I talk about models down the line, that models do matter to some degree, but what matters more is your expertise in prompting. So I want to say thank you to everyone who responded in the chat. All your responses were an improvement over and above that original messy prompt. And that shows and tells me that the framework is working. The more you practice, the faster and more natural it becomes. So I want to urge you, keep practicing. I'm going to pause for about 60 seconds and we will go into module 3. Module 3, I will take us through, some patterns, 1 or 2, and then we'll just take questions. And that's us in the last hour of this master class. So pretty much what I spoke about just now is this slide that you have on the screen. That's the difference between the messy prompt and the engineered prompt. So another 30 seconds and we will go into module 3. Okay, so I hope for those who haven't gotten the playbook now, you've been able to get the playbook. Now, module 3, and we will close on module 3, is pretty much me distilling what you have on the screen now by way of the slide you have on the screen. And at the end of module 3, and we are going to complete module 3 tomorrow, not today. We'll only do half of module 3 today. At the end of module 3, you will be able to use pattern A, which is legal research plan, and pattern B, which is drafting skeletons. Then you will also understand the structure and the purpose of pattern C. Pattern C is contract review, and pattern D, which is due diligence, and pattern E, which is advisory memorandum, which we call legal opinion. And you'll be able to articulate why each pattern is designed the way it is and what specific failure mode they address. So I want you to locate all 5 pattern templates in your playbook. Bolu, if you know the exact page, you can drop the page in the chat so that they know where exactly this module starts from in the playbook. So I'm going to also use the Zoom chat. No, not the Zoom chat. I would use ChatGPT for some of what I want to do. But let's do a quick recap. In module 2, you learned the 6 elements of this prompt engineering framework. So fun fact, after today, when you hear prompt engineering, you now know what it means. You know that it's not engineering in that sense. But again, as lawyers, we always talk about law as being a tool for social engineering. So when you hear engineering in this case, you now know that this is you constructing an environment for whatever module you are using so that it gives you what you want. The 5 patterns we have, we've learned the framework, we have learned the 6 elements, and now we are going to go into the 5 patterns. Pattern A is legal research plan. And you use this pattern when you need a structured research roadmap. Pattern B is drafting skeletons, drafts, when you need the architecture of a legal document before drafting the content. That's when you need pattern B. Pattern C is for contract review. For every commercial lawyer here, you are going to love this. When you want to do a clause-by-clause risk analysis, you need this. Pattern D, due diligence, for all our M&A lawyers and all our corporate lawyers. When you need a structured request list, a checklist, those long checklists you use for your DD, you are going to love pattern D. And then pattern E for your legal opinion, your advisory memorandum, when you need to advise a client in writing. And so we are going to demonstrate pattern A and pattern B live on screen right now, while pattern C, D, and E are in your playbook with full templates and examples. We will walk through the logic, but I want you to use pattern C, D, and E in your own practice after today, using the playbook as your guide, right? So one more point before we begin. Every one of this pattern is built on the same 6 elements framework that we learned in module 2. The elements are always the same: task, role, context, output, format, verification instruction, and boundaries. What changes from pattern to pattern is how each element is configured for the specific type of legal work. I hope that is clear. All right, so like I said, pattern A is the legal research plan. This, in my own view, is the single most important pattern for any lawyer using AI. And here is why. You know, the common prompt engineering error in legal research is, like Judith says, you know, we ask the AI for the answer, right? And you ask things like, what is the law on director's duty in Nigeria? Is this contract enforceable? What are the data protection requirements for this transaction? And you know, the truth is, when you ask AI for the answer, you are inviting hallucination. Someone said, what is hallucination? Like Judith said, hallucination is when AI lies. And someone said, but why does AI lie? We hear that this thing is smart. Yes, it is smart. And hear me when I say this, it is very smart. In fact, the 5.4 that I just showed us, ChatGPT, it is PhD level smart, especially when you use the thinking version, right? And I'm not joking. Some people think this is hype, right? It is that smart, right? But why does it hallucinate if it is that smart? Well, it hallucinates because its training data, first of all, does not have the answers to everything, right? And you see, because it does not have the answer to anything and everything, what it does not have answers to, it tries to make it up. And that's why it hallucinates, right? So the AI will produce an authoritative sounding legal analysis, you know, whether or not it actually again entirely, right? But you are going to reduce it to an almost zero minimum. So instead of asking the AI for the answer, oh, can you hear me now?
Please go ahead. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So instead of asking the AI for the answer, you ask for a research plan. You ask it to identify the issue, the applicable sources, the research steps, and the key questions. So you stop it from being a verifiable legal database, right? And you actually pander to its real strength, which is research. And you avoid its principal weakness, which is making it wanting to sound confident. So let us demonstrate this. And again, I'm going to paste a prompt into the window. All right. So I'm pasting the prompt right in. Now, this is the context. The context, or well, let's just go through the prompt. It says, you are a senior Nigerian litigation associate with expertise in company law. I need a legal research plan for the following issue. 2 is the tax. The tax is produce a structured legal research plan identifying the key legal issues, the applicable legal sources to consult. Notice I did not ask it to give it to me. I said, point me to where to consult and the research steps. Then the context. The context is a Nigerian private company, Company A, is in dispute with a former executive director, Mr. X, who during his tenure entered into a contract on behalf of the company with a third party without board authorization. The contract caused financial loss to the company. Company A wishes to understand A, whether Mr. X breached his duty as a director under Nigerian law, whether the contract is voidable, or valid and binding on Company A, and C, what remedies, if any, are applicable to Company A against Mr. X and the third party. Look at the outputs. The output says structure your response as a research plan with numbered sections. See the level of detail. Legal issues identified. Applicable Nigerian legislation with specific acts and sections. Applicable case law. Identify the types of cases to look for, not specific citation unless you are confident they exist. And in some cases, because those cases have been offloaded on the internet somewhere, ChatGPT can't find it, right? But you are telling it, don't produce it if it is not there. Then the research steps in priority order. Key questions remaining. Use formal legal language. Each section should be concise. Look at the verification instruction. For legislation, cite the specific act and section. For case law, identify the legal proposition to be established and the type of authority likely to support it, but do not invent specific case names. Flag any areas of uncertainty with that word, verify. Then the boundaries. This is a preliminary research plan, not legal advice. Do not state conclusions about the outcome of the dispute. Treat all information as confidential. Now, if you observe, this is the same prompt I used in Module 1 demonstration, but now you understand why it is built the way it is. Every element is doing its own specific work. The role anchors the AI in Nigerian company law. The tax asks for a research plan, not a research answer. The context provides the specific facts, the parties, the legal question. The output format demands 5 structured sections, not a narrative prose. And then the verification instruction prohibits invented case names. The boundary makes clear this is preliminary, it is not final advice. Now, when the output appears, initially I was going to enter so that you see the output, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ask you, right, to go do it yourself. And to go do it yourself because we learn by doing. Now, but watch what I want to do now, and or more like show you. This will change some people's lives forever. But with a caveat, I'm using ChatGPT, like you can see. It's GPT, like I said before. It's GPT what now? GPT what? Show me, configure. I'm using GPT 5.4. GPT 5.4 on every benchmark is at PhD level, right? But even at that, it's going to produce average work for you if you do not give it this kind of prompting. And your clients, I'm sure you know your clients use ChatGPT before they ask you legal questions. Your client cannot ask with this level of detail. And that's why your job remains secure as a lawyer. The only reason you can ask with this level of detail is because you have experience. It's because you have legal judgment. You know context. And that's the high value you are bringing to the work you do as a lawyer. Every Dick and Harry can type something into a ChatGPT, especially when I tell you it's PhD level. Now, but when I use thinking 5.4, it's going to give me a fantastic answer. But I said I want to show you something that will change your practice forever. You see this plus sign gives you some tools you probably never thought of using. I click on the plus sign and I click on deep research. I click on deep research. Initially, I was saving this bit for the context engineering masterclass, but I just thought to show you a bit here. Now, when I click on deep research, I'm clicking on it now. It shows me deep research, right? And I now click on enter. Now, watch what will happen. It's not just going to spit out an answer like ChatGPT that you know. It's taking its time, first of all. And the window that is going to come up next is, this is what you call agentic AI. The agent, the ChatGPT agent, is telling me what it is doing. It's telling me that it's identifying and compiling relevant Nigerian statutes and sections on director's duty. It's telling me that it's searching Nigerian case law for authorities on the Authorized Directors Act and company liability. It's telling me that it's reviewing remedies under statutes. It's assessing defenses and factors, and it's synthesizing its findings into issues. Now, if I wanted it to do something more, notice it's counting down. I would have just said edit, and I would have brought my expertise to say, oh, I need you to do more, right? And it will do more. But if I don't touch it, in 3, 2, 1, game time, it's going to start researching. Now, it's researching the same way your junior associate will go into a library to go research. So I don't have to stay here. I will just open another window, right? And we'll go and do something else. And that's what we are going to do. We are going to do something else because we are going to go to the next point of call, and so that we can take questions. So I'm going to open another ChatGPT window. I will come back to this research work when it finishes, right? So I will show you what the output is, right? But we are going to open another ChatGPT window so that we now deal with pattern B, and that's the last one we are going to do before we end for today, right? So I'm putting in pattern B. And pattern B, like I said, is drafting skeletons, right? This is for when you need to draft a legal document, a contract, a memorandum, a court submission, maybe even a policy document. Now, the principle behind pattern B is structure before content. Always structure before content. When you ask an AI to draft a complete contract in one go, you will get, a good average work, better than even what most lawyers will produce. And I say that with some empathy, that sadly, many of our colleagues, we haven't upped our game to draft solid contracts. And so the average work that ChatGPT will draft is better than what most of our colleagues will draft. And I say that as a call for legal education, not to throw shades. And so that's why when most people see that draft, they think, oh, this is fantastic, but it's really not. It's average work, right? So and for the experts in the field, they would see the missing clauses, the conflicting provisions, the content gaps, And so what you should do is you ask for skeleton first, just the clause heading and their purposes. And then you get a well-organized document architecture, just like a structural design of a house you want to build. And then you can begin to fill in the clause by clause with full control over the content. That's what makes you a master and different from every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right? It's just like an architect that is asking for a floor plan before the builder start working. Plan is to, do a quick review, and then when the plan is right, you start building. So let's look at that architecture in this case. So this is the prompt. You are a Nigerian technology transaction lawyer. Again, forgive me, I'm a technology lawyer. Produce a structural, by the way, maybe you're a divorce lawyer or you're a generalist, whatever it is you do. If you find it hard to reproduce this pattern for what you do, that's why you need to attend the Context Engineering Masterclass. That's where you're going to learn the structure, where you can take any of this and you adapt it in whatever field you are. But let me be fair to you. Even if you don't attend that class and you follow this framework, you can still repurpose this for whatever area of practice you work in. So let's continue. Produce a structural skeleton only, no full clauses or text for the following document. So this is your task. Draft a skeleton structure for a technology services agreement between a Nigerian fintech company, the client, and a software development company, the service provider, governed by Nigerian law. This is the context. The agreement will cover, now I don't want to bore you because everything in here is something technology law related. But look at the outputs. Produce a numbered clause skeleton only. Each entry contains, and you detail it, right? And you include the verification instruction and the boundaries. Notice again, I did not ask for the full output. I only asked for a skeleton. And this is the power of using this template. Notice the outputs. I constrained it to the output structure that I wanted and to have control over. And the same thing goes, right? This is a powerful tool. I want to check the work in. Oh, it's still working. I went to check pattern A, and you can see that pattern A is still researching. See the plenty work we gave it to do. Shane, it is all of us that said we don't want AI to hallucinate. So I actually asked it to go research. And if you've been following the agentic era of AI, what it is doing, you can't see what it is doing. At least 5 AIs for each of these 5 tasks has gone all over to go and do this research work as though they are human beings. And they are going to come back and they will put their answer together the same way your associate in the office will do. And they will put everything together and give me a response. I hope by the time we finish this by 5 p.m., they would have finished the work, right? But this second one, I'm not going to ask it to do deep research. I'm just going to, now it's in thinking mode, right? Not standard. It's in thinking mode. That means I want solid work. And it's going to give me the output. And if you've been following me and maybe you opened up your chat GPT and you are looking for all of this feature, let me break your heart. I'm sorry, but I have to break your heart. The only way you have this feature like deep research is that you have to be on the pro version of ChatGPT. What that means is that you have to pay $20 your practice will change forever. I promise you. It's probably going to be the most valuable 30,000 naira you have ever spent. Now, with a caveat, I am not marketing ChatGPT. And so, in the same way, now it's producing the output. Just like I've said so much about ChatGPT, I use Claude as well. And Claude is, they were born by Anthropic. So I want to be a equal opportunity offender. So I will stop ChatGPT and I will show you Claude. Now, what you have on the screen here is the Claude interface. Now, one of the beautiful things about Claude, right, is that Claude actually works in your folder. So watch where my cursor is. Can you see Johnson and Wilner? So Johnson and Wilner is a folder on my system. So if I was asking Claude to do the same things that I've asked ChatGPT to do, it's going to give me the result inside my work folder. And I'm going to ask it now. Notice I'm using Opus 4.6. Opus 4.6 is the equivalent of ChatGPT 5.4, PhD level, stronger than ChatGPT 5.4, I dare say. And for those who have been wondering, this Claude is what the American government used to capture Nicolas Maduro, Venezuelan president. This Claude is the intelligence they use in their Iran operation, right? And I'm able to use Claude because I also pay $20 so that I can use the pro version. Again, the most valuable $20 of my life is paying for Claude and paying for ChatGPT. I'm not saying you should pay for both. You can choose one. Don't quote me. If you want to choose one, I think you have a sense now which one you should choose. Claude is doing its work. ChatGPT is doing its work. Now, I want to close this in 5 minutes. Pattern D is the due diligence pattern. Due diligence structuring is one of the strongest use cases of AI in legal practice. The reason is that the risk of AI error is relatively low for this task. The worst outcome for a due diligence request is that it is incomplete, right? But AI is fantastic for due diligence. Pattern D is when you ask the AI to produce a request list organized under defined headings, right? So for instance, with each list tied to a specific regulatory requirement. So for instance, for a Nigerian fintech company, you could. Okay, I think I was distracted by what Claude has done. So I wanted to shock you a bit. So Claude has done the work. It has given me a skeleton, right? Claude 4.6 is very fast. And it gave me in the window. But I told you it's going to reside in my folder. More about that later. Let's go and check what ChatGPT is doing. ChatGPT, where are you? I want to actually, it's still researching. Can you see? It has not finished. This is where we say it is well. It wants to give you a thorough job. But the one that was instant has already given its response, right? But I promise you, instant is going to be very good. The deep research output will be a game changer. All right, so pattern E is advisory memo. Advisory memo is your legal opinion, and it's a high stake tool, because that's how your clients judge you first. I want you to look in your playbook and you would see how pattern E works. Let me recap. Pattern A, and I'm closing now, 2 minutes. I want to bring up the patterns on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. Pattern A is legal research. What's your take home? Ask for a plan, not an answer. The AI structures the inquiry, you execute the research in verified sources. Pattern B is the skeleton, asks for structure before content. The AI builds the architecture, you draft the substance. Pattern C is contract review. What do? Ask for a risk table, not a narrative. The AI identifies and categorizes the issue, and you validate the analysis and you advise the client. Pattern D is due diligence. You ask for a regulation anchored request list. The AI will generate the comprehensive checklist. You add what is missing and you execute the process. Pattern E is your legal opinion. You ask for structure, you ask for verification, you place caution. The AI will produce a preliminary draft. You verify every line before it reaches the client. So, of these 5 patterns, which of the 5 patterns will you first use in your practice after today? You can write either A, B, C, D, or E in the chat box. And while I look at your response, I think it's a very safe place to hand over to the moderator. Looks like we have some 15 minutes for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. I mean, this has been deep and very, very, very educating and enlightening. What Mr. Rotimi has been able to do for us is to give some structure and to also give a best case possible of the use of AI. I know a lot of us are using it, but and that's why we have cases of hallucinations. That's why we have cases that I really do not understand what this AI is saying. It is not giving me a correct answer. And that is simply because we're not using it well. So, Mr. Rotimi, Judith, we are very grateful. I'll just we're quickly running out of time, but I want to take some of the questions, and I want both answers. As I shoot the questions, I want answers from both Judith and Rotimi, please. And the first question that I have here comes from Davis. Please, which additional AI tools and apps can we recommend for lawyers? Mr. Rotimi has already said ChatGPT, Cloud. Judith, are there any other ones that you would recommend that can be used by lawyers in AI?
So there are specific tools that are made for legal, although I'm not going to list out or name any names because there's a framework that you actually need to go through before you think about incorporating those specific legal tools into your practice. So what I'd say is, what are the pain points that you're particularly having in your practice? Is it volume of document drafting? Is it time that it's taking to do DD? Is it, you want to automate a contract that is quite low level and you do all the time? Then you create a use case for that. And then once you have a use case matching the pain points, you then match out with the tools. And the various tools have various different things that they do or that they give. And then also there's a cost element to that as well, right? And there's a security and a governance bit to it as well. So yes, they're specific AI tools that are made for the legal industry, and there's a lot of them, which you would have heard all over the news, some of them worth billions of dollars. But I won't recommend a particular one because it just depends on what you're trying to do. Now, the generalist or the frontier tools, like Rotimi has said, which is your Claude, your ChatGPT, your Gemini, can also help in legal work, although they're not made specific for legal work, but they're more generalist tools, right? And I try to tell people to think about it like this. So think about you having a world-class chef that can cook various different meals, but then you have a chef that can just make specific Nigerian food and has, grown up with the grandmothers and know how to make the various different soups, right? So the generalist tool is your world-class chef that can cook different things from different cuisines, but then your specific legal tool knows how to get the jollof rice to that smoking point that makes it, firewood jollof, and it's not tasting like, a Michelin star jollof rice, right? So those are the nuances, and that's how I like to give the examples. But if you're not starting from anywhere, start with your Copilot, your ChatGPT, your Gemini, and your Claude.
Okay. Rotimi, is there any other one you'd love to add, particularly for Nigerian lawyers, legal specific for litigation?
As you can imagine, you know that I will not mention names, but I piggyback on what Judith had said. There are one or two. I think one or two are brand names, but this is what I would say. First principles. Always go to first principles. All of them, including the ones Judith had mentioned, they are all built on top of these three frontier models. All
That's
of
true.
them.
That's true. That's true.
Tpta, Claude, Gemini. And so what all of them have done is they've been fine-tuned, like Judith had said. And to a large degree, what we have taught here, this structure we have taught here, is to help you fine-tune whatever tool you are using. Now, let me scare you a bit. Now, even the specialized tools, the specialized legal tools, if they are not used in a structured way, they can still take you down a path you would never have expected. So don't go thinking, oh, I'm using a specialized legal AI, so I'm hallucination free. No. There was a research done in the US, and it was shown that the hallucination rate of certain specialized legal AI was at 17%. Of course, it's much lower than the consumer AI tools, but it equally has its risk. That's why we are taking the time to say, regardless of the tool, maybe it's not so much about the tool. The tool will help, but it's more about the structure. It's more about first principles and understanding that all of those tools, any name them, they are built on top of these frontier models. But yes, I'm happy to share a list maybe after tomorrow of links to the consumer AI, pretty much that can be used.
We're giving publicity to the main tools, but our Nigerian-based ones that I agree are piggybacking on the main ones are not being given any form of publicity. I don't know why. Your reasons for that.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
You notice that I did not mention certain other Western tools, and I'll mention them now, e.g. Grok, or the Chinese tool, DeepSeek. Yeah. I'm not mentioning, the reason I've mentioned those three is because those three are the frontier models. Those three are the three that the entire AI industry today is built on. They are the infrastructure. They are the layer on which everyone else is built on, right? So that's the reason why. It's not because they are the big names or anything. No, they've done the work, and it would be almost disingenuous of me not to make that clear. Now, at some point, I would say a bit about the open source tools, right? And and particularly for lawyers, but I didn't want to go technical in this course, where you can use the open source tools like DeepSeek and build your own chat GPT in your office, in your firm, right? So that's another trajectory. But Idris, sorry to disappoint us. There's no Nigerian AI that is anywhere close to the frontier models.
No, I
None.
agree with you
Zero.
on that. I agree with you on that, definitely. In fact, you've made the point very clearly. Most of these AI tools are just using APIs to connect to the frontier models. So there's a particular question which I would love your perspective on. And we have spoken extensively on prompt engineering. In fact, when I was talking with Tobena before this session, I was like, most lawyers will not come on this session once they see the words prompt engineering. What has prompt engineering got to do with the lawyer skills? But you have done the brilliant work. The question from the platform is now saying that is prompt engineering becoming a core legal skill, or will it be just basically a temporary advantage? To further expatiate on that, it has to do with, do both of you see that the acquisition of AI skills or AI literacy a very important skill now to be acquired by lawyers? I would like to
I'll
start with
let
Judith.
Judith, yeah.
All right, now thank you for that question. So as we are today, right, and AI has gone very, very far, but prompt engineering is one of the skills that is really good for a lawyer to learn. And why is because, there's all this chatter that, AI will take at least junior lawyers' job and all of that. And I try to stay away from that because for where we are today, that's not quite right, right? So the scope of a lawyer's job is going to start to change because, as Rotimi said, sometimes before your clients even come to you, they've put their problem into ChatGPT, right? So what makes it different is your judgment that you bring to it, how you handle the ambiguity, the professional conduct as well, the ethics and the governance and the guardrails that you build around that. Now, learning prompt engineering helps you use the models better. Now, is it a skill that you should learn and then forget about everything else? Where we are today, actually, if you don't know how to prompt engineer, you're behind. So this course is timely if you're starting from the beginning because it's gone far. AI can actually even prompt itself and help you prompt, which is called meta prompting. But learning it and knowing the building blocks and the foundations is very important because some people here are asking about legal specific tools, right? When you start going to the legal specific tools or the higher versions, then you know what to look out for. But if you don't know the foundation, how would you know the advanced level? As Rotimi was saying when he put the structure, it's a building block. It builds one on top of the other. So yes, I would say learn prompt engineering. You need to, so that you can understand how the model works, how it reasons, what you put in versus the output that you bring out, whether you're using the frontier models or the general tools. It's not the place to stop though, because if that's only what you know, you're far behind. It's moved far, far, far ahead. So this is the building block stage and you need to take it seriously.
Rotimi, you have anything to add to that?
Just to say I concur 100%.
Okay. So we have another one, and this has to do with I think you've touched it, but maybe you could just say a thing or two on it. The extent of the disadvantage of using a free chat GPT. It comes from an anonymous attendee. Would you
Okay.
suggest that based on this training, people can continue to use free without mentioning ChatGPT AI tools?
Right. So my short answer is you would observe that in the flow of this training, the prompting and all, it was structured in a way that even if you were using the free version, you would still be in a rather safe place when it comes to your ethical boundaries, confidentiality, when it comes to client data, when it comes to candor, right? And so what I did, or what we both did, is to ensure that even if you were starting from ground zero and all you have is the free version, you can still use it in a, in a structured, privacy preserving way. And you are not potentially violating any ethical rule. That that's the typical red flag when it comes to using free AI. Let me float the enterprise specialist legal AI tools. Part of what makes them, attractive is the fact that, for instance, these tools promise the high end ones, they promise, for instance, zero data retention by contract. That means you are 100% kind of, at least by contract, guaranteed that your client data will not be used as training data, will not be used for any untoward purpose, right? And it's safe. If you use free version of ChatGPT or even Claude, and I'll talk a bit about Claude, if you use free version of ChatGPT, you are by default offering your client's data to OpenAI to use as training data. And that's not great. But watch the way I prompted today. If you prompt the way I prompted today, you can still get value. You have not offered any client information. You redacted, you use Mr. X, you use company A. That was deliberate, right? But someone might be worried and say, oh, how can I do that at scale? Well, you learn that when you undergo the context engineering course, where you write a script that can automatically anonymize an entire set of documents, changes all the Mr. so and so to XXX and all of that. But, so let me land by saying, yes, those are the risks. Data, you stand the risk of breaching professional ethical rules if you use free ChatGPT. Now, if you observe, when I use the enterprise version of ChatGPT, I was working in temporary mode. What that means is that ChatGPT cannot train on anything that I fed into it, all through everything I did. It cannot. Maybe technologically it will retain for some days, but it's going to automatically delete everything, right? Claude is even better. ChatGPT free version, if you use it by default, your data is going to be used to train its model. But Claude, it is set the other way around. By default, your data will not be used to train. Even though you have some other lesser protections, your data will be held for a period, like that. And eventually, who knows? Right. So what I'm saying in a nutshell is, for lawyers, it's best that you use at least the pro version of any of these consumer AI tools. It's best. So yeah.
Okay. So we're running short of time. So Judith, before I call to Bernard to come and give his closing remarks, I'd like to end with you. And there's been a recurring questions both online and offline. I want to use AI. I want to make it improve my practice. Question is, most of it has been answered here, but just give directions. What lawyers can use to start, a good starting base with the prompt engineering simplified, give some form of just directions for the younger lawyers and even more of the older ones.
Okay, well, I'll start by saying come tomorrow, because we're going to give a safe protocol that I usually take my clients through, and I'm going to be giving it where you can start by Friday to start using AI safely, even the free version, right? But as Rotimi said, if you run a practice, right, a law firm, a chambers, you're in-house, I would not recommend you use the free version of any of these models, and not even the pro version for your organizations, right? Because there are real data restrictions and data sensitivities in there because you don't have any data processing agreement with these models. I would encourage that you use at least the business version of these models, and most organizations will have enterprise version of Microsoft, right? And Microsoft has Copilot, and Copilot runs on ChatGPT, which now they've also partnered with Anthropic, which is the company that produced Claude, and it takes that brain work from Claude as well. So most organizations will already have an enterprise version of Microsoft, and if you don't, it's not even that expensive, for Microsoft, the enterprise version, well, depending on the size of your organization, depending on the price, it's the cheapest and most people already have it. So I would say for work within a legal organization, you should start there. Okay. Now, for a lawyer who's trying to start out, who's junior and trying to practice, start with the free version, right? If you don't have $20 or $15, if you pay on a yearly basis to give monthly, start with the things that we've taught you today. Anonymize all your prompts. Come tomorrow and also learn the protocol, especially if maybe you're a sole practitioner and you don't have that money to spend on the big tools. Come and learn, but start. Okay. I would always encourage you to start. Start because it's moving at a fast pace. We're not trying to sound, scary or try to sound doomsday-ish, but it's the reality. Okay. It's been 3 years that this has been around now, and it's growing at such a fast pace. So I encourage everybody, start from where you are. Start with the tools you have. If it's the free version, if it's the enterprise version, start from there. And you only learn by using it, right? Make the mistakes, but please don't make the mistakes with client data. Okay. Put in the bad prompt and let it give you a bad output. Then you're like, oh, okay, but Rotimi said, oh, we should put in a context here. And Judith says, oh, we should put the verification here. Plug those in and tinker with it. And there's even a place in the model itself that you can force it to act a certain way or sound a certain way, right? Which I think Rotimi might have shown, or if not, he'll probably be showing in our next few courses. But just use it. I would encourage every single person, use it. Don't believe what people are saying that, oh, AI is just a fad. It's not. Please don't make that mistake. I work with so many international companies where they're like, oh my God, this thing has really gone far. And for practices and firms who are not using it, the competition has grown small because AI has made even the guy down the street, if he's using it or she's using it properly, they can outrun your business. So you need to get in there from small sole entrepreneurs to big law firms, in-house teams, chamber owners. Get it in, train your staff, train yourself, have good governance in place, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. And I'll just say start. Please start.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Judith. I can see Inta, a director of Tpta, is also here. I don't know if you have a word or two, Inta. Inta is one of Nigeria's leading authorities on intellectual property. You should look for her on social media. I follow her. She's bringing out some huge nuggets that you must learn a lot from. So, Inta.
And thank you so much. Judith, hi, nice to meet you. Rotimi is, my brother. We talk. So
Lovely to meet you too.
So I will connect with you on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. Rotimi, this is like, all the conversations we have about, technology, data, AI. It is now upon us. So this training is timely. I hope, those that have actually joined, just get on with it. Thank you so much. This was really insightful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to call on Tpta to give the closing remarks. We're supposed to have a continuation of this training for tomorrow, but I don't know whether it's going to still hold, considering the fact that tomorrow has also been declared a public holiday. So Tpta, closing remarks from you and confirmation if the training for tomorrow is still holding.
Yeah, thank you very much, Idris. You just raised a very difficult issue. I've been pondering on it in the last few minutes since the federal government made the announcement. But just seeing that we have a lot of participants and attendees from all over Nigeria, and it would seem a bit insensitive to continue with the training tomorrow. I'll discuss with Judith and Rotimi and crave their indulgence, and hopefully we can adjust and find another time that's not tomorrow. So Nigeria is a country where you must take religious things very seriously. And then and then no matter how, it's a public holiday is already declared. So I think we have to heed by that. But I must say a big, big thank you to Rotimi and to Judith for a very insightful session today. I think it's very illuminating, and I don't even know what to say about those people who didn't join in today. Maybe one of the advantages of the point that Idris made, or tomorrow's public holiday, would be that it'll give us an opportunity to adjust our flyers to have a less esoteric title, so that Idris can actually market this training the way he wants to market it, so that we have all the people in the world here, because Idris is big on AI. But thank you very much for this session, Rotimi and Judith. This, I think, is so good, and I've seen people clapping, and I've seen comments just showing appreciation from Nigerian lawyers, and I just feel bad that many people haven't attended, and I hope that all Nigerian lawyers should just attend and get the benefit of this. So thank you very much, Rotimi. Thank you, Judith. And I ask everybody to please show appreciation to Rotimi and Judith. They've given up their time, 2 great hours, and they've done it free for Nigerian lawyers, just to make sure that everybody's on board in a moving world and a moving time. So thank you, and God bless you all. So we'll let you know what we decide regarding time, and then we'll come back with adverts and put up a notice tomorrow also for those who join in without knowing that we have had to postpone. So thank you, and God bless you all. See you all soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.